Here we go. Right. So, as usual, my diligent wife was digging around in her news feed today, and she comes up with these little golden nuggets of amazing stuff. And she forwarded one to me as we were rolling ourselves into our morning. And should have taken my glasses off because I have to put them back on again. More truth bombs. That's the right way to put it. Stink bombs, depending on how you want to look at it, coming out of the COP28, currently held in Dubai. I thought maybe it would be Sultan Al Jaber weighing forth again, but it's not. It's another guy. Who is this guy? Chief executive of UAE-based energy firm Crescent Petroleum. Okay, so this is a spokesdrone for a Emirati-based oil company, right? And so we can name some oil companies. Shall we do that, children? ExxonMobil, Total Energy, Chevron, Shell. There's a bunch of them. They're all over the planet. Everybody's got one. The Russians have got one. The Venezuelans have one. The Saudis have several. Okay. We know these people. So I want to read part of an article. This is from CNBC. Came out, was it today? No, yesterday, December 5th. The title of the article at CNBC is Oil CEO says, I'll start over. Sorry, I screwed it up. It's early in the morning. I haven't had breakfast, haven't had coffee. Oil CEO blames. I want to get this right because it's important. Oil CEO says blaming the energy industry for the climate crisis is like blaming farmers for obesity. And you're going to say, how can he say something like that? That is so wrong. And besides which, now you're fat shaming. Okay, I'll roll with you on the fat shaming thing. Okay, but this is a metaphor, so let's roll with it. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here. So I don't normally do that. So please, I'm going to burn up some of my credit for not reading articles. Okay, I don't read articles. Have you noticed that? I don't read articles much because most of what I put on this channel just comes from my head. I don't do it well. It's not scripted. I don't edit. I'm doing it all wrong. But the one thing I do is this is me. I'm generating content. Me here. This gray matter. Generating content after a decade of looking at this shit show. Okay. The circus act that we call, whatever we're calling it, the fight against climate change. It's not, but let's just call it that because people love to call it that. We're not fighting Jack. Okay. Oh, and that actually, the fact that we're not fighting Jack ties into this article. Did you know you can't fight climate change? Did you know that? Did you know that? You can't fight climate change. Do I have to do this? You can't fight climate change any more than you can fight gun violence. Because climate change and gun violence are an outcome. They're a thing that happens due to a bunch of other things that happened over here, right? You have gun violence. Oh, we're going to fight gun violence. No, you're not going to do that because gun violence is an outcome of a bunch of other things. Now, you can fight those other things. Let's talk about that. How do you fight gun violence? Okay, you don't fight gun violence. How do you end gun violence? How do you address gun violence? Okay, well, you could get rid of the guns. That's an obvious thing. I'm not saying you can do that. I'm not saying you would do that. But if you don't want the gun violence, then get rid of the guns. Or conversely, keep the guns, get rid of the bullets. Or keep the guns, keep the bullets, but have guns that just shoot one bullet at a time. You have to use a bolt, or you have to, or you have to pour the black powder down the muzzle and then put the ball in and tamp it. Okay, you can do that. You can have muskets, right? You can have muskets, and people would still kill people with muskets or guns that have a bolt that have to, you put one shell at a time like this, and it's fiddly and it, all this kind of stuff. And you'd have less gun violence. So you would be effectively reducing gun violence, fighting gun violence by having a different kind of gun. Okay. So all these things are feasible. All these things, all the things I mentioned, different kinds of guns, less bullets, muskets, right? Guns that you have to send an email to somebody before it will fire a bullet, right? These are just technical problems. You could solve these. You could do all these things, and then you could reduce gun violence, right? And you can do those things over here on the doing things side, on the actional side, but you can't ever get rid of gun violence, because gun violence is a result. You see how this works? People don't understand cause and effect. You think that after 200 million years of growing gray matter and convolutions and all this stuff, we would understand cause and effect. Cause and effect. You drop a brick on your foot, that's a cause. For the effect, which is you have a broken toe, right? Cause and effect. Why do we have all this up here if you can't understand the very basics of just this was the cause, this was the effect? You don't fight effects. You don't fight, I have a broken toe now. Oh, my toe is broken. I'm going to fight that. Well, you might put a Band-Aid on it. You might go to the doctor. You might get an x-ray. But none of that changes. You have a broken toe. What did you do? You dropped a brick on your toe. You could not do that. You could not drop bricks on your toe. You could not have guns that do these things. Okay? So fighting climate change is not a thing. You can't do that. You can stop the things that are causing climate change, and you can do that. And in this article, he talks about that. He talks about why you're not doing that. He talks about why I'm going to talk about why you would rather fight climate change. You would rather fight climate change just like you would rather fight gun violence, okay? Because you really don't want to do this, or because you're dumb. I don't know. Why do you have all this if you can't understand cause and effect, okay? Climate change is an outcome of a bunch of stuff that people do. Stop doing those things. Stop doing those things, and the climate will stop changing. Is this not obvious? Why? Am I the only person on earth who understands this? And I can even tell you that. And this guy can tell you that. He's an oil company executive. He's an oil company executive. He understands this. He understands cause and effect. And he knows where you people are. He knows where you are. He's not the only one. I know where you are. On this channel, I talk about that you don't deal with it. You want to fight climate change. You want to take climate action. Whatever. It's all these euphemisms. Roll it back a little bit to you. Roll it back a little bit to all the things you have to have. You are the cause. Cause and effect. Climate change is effect. Global heating is an effect. Everything that happens as a result of these things is an effect that has a cause. You and me. We did this. We absolutely did this. There's no question who did this, when they did this, how they did this, why they did this. We all know. If you don't know, if you can't answer those questions, who, what, where, why, and when, then you're an idiot. You're just an absolute idiot. You've got a brain bug. It's eating your gray matter. You don't have any convolutions. You're smooth-brained and you're stupid. Okay, if you can't answer who, where, what, why, and when caused climate change, then you're retarded. And that's probably disparaging actual retarded people, because retarded people don't have a choice in not understanding who, what, where, why, and when created climate change. You have no excuse. You've got the gray matter. You've got the convolutions. You've got the 200,000 years of human evolution. You're on the internet. You have some technological chops. You've got news feeds. You've got discussion groups. You're all over this stuff. You came here because you want to hear me talk about climate change, because you know what that is. You know it's there. It's a threat. It's causing problems. We have to deal with it. But you don't know. What you don't know is it's not a thing you can fight. It's an effect caused by you with your consumption of fossil fuels, which enables the development of fossil fuels for you to consume. And there's an entire infrastructure that allows and encourages the consumption of fossil fuels. And you have a car, and you have an asphalt road, and you've got traffic signals, and you've got electricity all over the place, and you're going to get in your car. When you're done listening to me, when you cut this video, I'm going to say, that son of a bitch, I'm not going to listen to him. You're going to get in your car to feel better about yourself. You're going to drive down to Starbucks, go through the drive-in, get a latte. All of which, 100% of which, is enabled by constant, continuous infusions of fossil fuels of various kinds. All of it, 100% of it. And this camera, and this flat screen monitor, and that Mac Pro, and this keyboard, and this mouse, and this internet, and this lighting, and everything that happened here to make this possible for me to outrage you so that you have to get in your car, go to Starbucks, go through the drive-thru, and get a latte to feel better. All of this is enabled by fossil fuels. All of it. 100% of it. Every single thing you see here. Everything I say, everything I think, everything I eat, everything I drink, including the coffee I haven't yet made for myself that came from probably Peru, is 100% dependent on fossil fuels. Back to the article. Oil CEO says blaming the energy industry for the climate crisis is like blaming farmers for obesity. Shall we continue? The chief executive of UAE-based energy firm Crescent Petroleum on Tuesday claimed that blaming the oil and gas industry for the climate crisis is like blaming farmers for obesity. Blaming the producers of oil and gas for climate change is like blaming farmers for obesity. Now, we will still need oil and gas throughout the transition, and there is no scenario, even the most ambitious scenario, that does not include that. There was something else that someone said. I'm not sure it's in this article, so I'm just going to have to. Okay, no, it is here. Okay, and then he went on. Okay, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who I like, by the way, he said a lot of really neat things about the global response to our fossil fuel dependence, and he said them in the past. But I've noticed recently, the last few things he said, he's backsliding a little bit. He's backsliding. He's taking now the go slow. He used to say, "Oh, this was a crisis. This is an emergency. Many people are dependent on this," and blah blah. I think that was after the last IPCC report, report 6. I think he came out. He was alarmed. He was obviously scared. Everybody was scared when that report came out. People were like, blah, 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 "What?" And he was scared. So he was coming out saying things like, "Wow, we got to get on this. Jeez, why are we sitting here? Why are we sitting here talking about this? Let's get out there. Let's do something. Let's fix it." But I noticed since then, that was a few years ago. Since then, he's been backsliding a bit. Let's see what he has to say here. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the announcement was a step in the right direction for big oil and showed that the fossil fuel industry was finally starting to wake up. However, he said he said, I think there's a typo here. However, he said the promises made clearly fall short of what is required. So he's talking about some initiatives that the oil industry is coming up with. They're coming up with a concerted effort, a commitment to control their own methane emissions. Extracting oil and natural gas is methane, but oil associates with methane. So, but when you're pumping oil, you don't want the methane. So they flare the methane, or they just outgas it and throw it in the atmosphere. So the oil industry at COP28 is making commitments to rein in their somewhat unavoidable, necessary, but could be managed better, emissions of methane into the atmosphere. So they've committed to do that. So Guterres is saying, yeah, that's great. That's a great viewpoint. But it clearly falls short of what is required. And I think that's what set this guy off. Okay. Clearly falls short of what is required. You're going to manage your methane, your accidental or required methane emissions, but that falls short of what's required. Yeah, sure, it falls short of what's required. It's just something they're willing to do. In fact, if they capture the methane, they can sell it. So why not? Right? They can use it to generate electricity and sell the electricity, whatever. Yeah, they'll do something. Sure, fine. Asked about Guterres' comments, Jafar, who is the CEO, someone's outside singing. It's wonderful around here. Asked about Guterres' comments, Jafar said he believed oil and gas would continue to play a major role in the transition to cleaner energy technologies. That's beyond dispute. That is completely beyond dispute. I mean, what are you talking about? Cleaner energy technologies? What, solar panels, wind farms? You know how they make those? Fossil fuels. How do they make a Tesla? Using fossil fuels. So you want to have cleaner energy technologies, you're going to burn fossil fuels. That's called embodied carbon. That means I have a solar panel. Here it is. Weighs about 40 pounds. I'm holding it right here. Ta-da! Solar panel. It's about this high and this wide. Solar panel. It was manufactured in wherever, South Korea, Germany, China, right? Solar panel, great big thing. Made out of aluminum. Of course, the little solar cells are made out of silicon dioxide. Pure silicon is a result. There's aluminum wires, there's copper, there's electronics built into the back of it to help moderate, control the power output. And it's covered with resins, not glass, but some sort of a resilient plastic. And it's all made of fossil fuels, all of it, 100% of it. You can't make any solar panels without fossil fuels. Oh, okay. Well, that's contingent on, where you get the energy for these things, right? You can have the factory be based on electricity. Well, actually, if you go to the factory, you walk into the factory and they're making solar panels and there's an assembly line, there's all these workers, okay? And the lights are on and the machines are running, the motors are running and the panels are moving along and people are welding and soldering and bolting things together, okay? You won't see any fossil fuels. You'll see electricity. So, okay, great. Could that electricity be generated by solar panels? Wow, there's a thought. You're making solar panels and you're using solar panels to generate the electricity to make solar panels. Wow, there's a thought. Is anybody doing that? No. Nobody's doing that. Could they do that? Sure. Yeah, sure. But when they're assembling the solar panels and the lighting is right there and they're air conditioning the facility and okay, that's not where the fossil fuels would be consumed anyway. Making aluminum is massively energy intensive. They use fossil fuels. It's hard to imagine what else they would use. All the resins actually come that they coat the panel with to protect it from the weather. All the resins come actually from petroleum. So there's fossil fuels right there. You tap it with your finger. All the other metals in it, the copper, the lead, the silver, all the things that are used to put it together, the solder, everything like that, is all mined somewhere, right? Could be recycled, but probably not, right? It's all virgin metals mined from the ground at some place that uses huge trucks to pull dirt out of the ground and smelt it into refined metals. Okay, there you go. And then, like I said, these solar panels are being made in China, South Korea, Germany, whatever, and then they're shipped to you. How are they shipped to you? Let's see. Is that on a wooden sailing ship using the breeze? No, of course not. I mean, it could be done that way. We could make cargo ships that are powered by the wind, which is solar, right? We could make cargo ships that are powered by nuclear, if you like. And there are some of those out there now. Nuclear is very expensive. It's, of course, somewhat dangerous. You don't want these ships sinking at sea and taking a nuclear reactor to the bottom. So there are problems with nuclear, but, after you built it, at least there's no fossil fuel emissions. You could do that. And they are experimenting with autonomous sailing ships that can, cross the oceans unattended with their cargoes, because it might take a year, right? It might take a year to cross the sea on the wind alone. These are huge ships and they're going to be slow moving. And so you don't want a crew on there for a year and it just sails unattended to its destination. And they could do that, but that sounds expensive, doesn't it? It sounds slow. It's not, geared for today's just-in-time supply chains. So will they do that? They could. Have they? No. Might they? Don't know. Maybe they'll have to. And maybe we just can't have JIT supply lines, right? Is this related to the article? I think so, because he says right here, ask about Guterres' comments about, that the oil industry is falling short. Jafar said he believed oil and gas would continue to play a major role in the transition to cleaner energy technologies, which is what I was just saying. You can't build solar panels and ship them and install them without fossil fuels. Could we change that? We could. But that's also part of the transition. We have to transition how we build solar panels, and then we have to transition how we mine the metals for the solar panels, and then we have to transition how the solar panels are transported. Then we have to transition how the solar panels are installed, right? All that too. So are you going to do all that? That's a lot of work. You got to do that. Can you do that? I don't know. Are you willing to do that fast, like soon, like last year? I don't know. Don't think so. Hasn't happened yet. There's no talk about to do this. So my guess is no, it's not going to happen. I mean, you have to talk about something before it can happen. You have to make plans. You have to budget. You have to pass legislation. You have to sell it to the board. You have to sell the idea to the stockholders. You have to, you have to create whole new corporations. You have to create whole new technology. Are we doing any of those things? No, we're not doing any of those things. So could we use fossil fuels to transition to cleaner energy technologies? In theory, in some parallel universe. Are we? No, we're not. Will we? I don't think so. We're not doing it. So I don't think we will. We have plenty of incentive now. We're not doing it. We've even committed to doing it in the past. We're not doing it. We're not going to do it. Ipso facto. Connecting some dots, we're not going to do it. Then he continues. With all respect to that viewpoint, perhaps he, Secretary General Guterres, should start with the UN. Yes, that's what I just said. You have to start somewhere. We're not even starting. Let's start somewhere. Maybe he should have traveled here in a wooden boat. Yes, Antonio Guterres is at the COP28. Maybe he should have traveled here in a wooden boat with sails, rowing when the wind died down. You can say, well, that's ridiculous. No, it isn't. It is not ridiculous. This is the work of the moment. I have said many times on this channel, talking about village life. Village life. You think that's a metaphor? That is not a metaphor. Village life with wooden wheels and wooden carts and oxen and horses. Actual village life. And village life is commensurate with wooden boats with sails. Now, if you can transport solar panels from China to, the Bay Area, install them on your houses with wooden boats and sails, well, then, nice. And while we're doing that and working on that, let's work on village life. And we can have our solar panels in our village. I would also want my internet, my electric lights. I wouldn't mind having, a nurse practitioner nearby to help with health, especially as I get older. We can have one-room schoolhouses for the little ones. We can have, through 200 or 300 people living in our village, well within our Dunbar number, and we can all know each other, and we can all help raise each other's children and take care of each other's elders, and we can innovate and collect technology and do all the things we want to do with whatever we can do without fossil fuels, right? We could do that. And then Antonio Guterres could sail on a ship with sails to the next COP in some future, or we just stop having them because we can't have these things anymore. We don't need to talk about these things anymore, and fly 70,000 lobbyists to, wherever they are, Dubai, right? 70,000 lobbyists showed up in Dubai because a bunch of people wanted to talk about climate change. So if you're going to talk about climate change in Dubai, we have to fly, because it's in Dubai, we have to fly 70,000 lobbyists there to make sure you talk about the right things. That looks like we're shooting ourselves in the foot, or to take my earlier metaphor, dropping a brick on our toe, right? We don't have to do that. We did that. And the result is, whatever, more carbon emissions. The result is more global heating. The result is more kerfluffles in the news. It gets everyone all stirred up and banging away on their keyboards. And it got me up in the morning without coffee, growl, to come in here and do this, all right? I'll read it again. With all respects for that viewpoint, perhaps he should start with the UN itself. Maybe he should have traveled here, Dubai, in a wooden boat with sails, rowing when the wind dies down. Maybe he should move the UN staff to upstate New York, to a forest somewhere where they can grow their own food without fertilizers. He has to take away all their smartphones. They can't use email. They can use maybe carrier pigeons for UN communications. And you're saying, what an asshole. What a turd blossom, right? Listen to this guy. Wrong. He's right. Maybe they should do that. Actually, factually, they have got to figure that out. They have got to do that. They have got to figure that out. They have got to figure out how to have a United Nations located anywhere on the planet at all, with 200 countries in representation without fossil fuels. There you go. He's got to do that. Antonio Guterres has got to figure that shit out. Can he figure that out? No, he can't. You can't have a United Nations. You can't have a global community of nations. You can't have that. Okay, let's be careful. You could have that. I could engineer this. I'm a network engineer. I'm a scientist. I could figure this out. I got gray matter. I've got convolutions. I can figure this out. You make sure that every country on Earth has internet access, that they have somewhere in their territory a internet-enabled communications device, this computer, a laptop, really a handheld cell phone will do. And they can have Zoom meetings, or they can have WebEx meetings, or there could be some other technology that doesn't belong to a spineless, soulless corporation that the world owns, that we've developed for our own uses. And the UN owns it. They own the patents. They own the technology. They can give it away because it's their shit. And they just have Zoom calls or the equivalent. I should name it. Something. Let's be clever here. Let's have a technology. Let's do this. Let's do this right now. Okay. I'm always saying this is back of the envelope stuff. I'm talking to my wife. I'll have a 30-second conversation. I say, see, we just figured this out. We just solved this problem. It took us 30 seconds of noodling over it. We solved the problem. The reason the world's countries and corporations can't solve this problem is because they don't want to solve it. Let's start with a name. For the communications technology is going to tie the world together. It took me 3 seconds. GaiaNet. There you go. GaiaNet. It's related to the internet, but it's a set of technologies that all the countries and really all the peoples of the world can have access to. It's non-anonymous, and to join onto it, you have to be selected by your government, and so we know who you are. And you can apply to your government. Maybe they'll let you talk. Maybe they'll let you won't. Maybe they won't. But in any case, GaiaNet is a series of technologies. The usual stuff. Low bandwidth stuff like email, chat servers, and then there's a Zoom call, WebEx like thing for video communication. So the UN sets this up. They own the technology. They run the servers. It's theirs. You don't have to worry about Facebook moderating. You own the horror, okay? Or Apple TV inserting ads at every 8 seconds. The horror, right? No, it belongs to the UN. They built the network. They have the servers. They fund the servers. Oh, and the servers, of course, have to run on complete solar panel. It has to be right there on the site where the servers are. And how many would you need? You need a really small server farm. I could probably set it up myself in an afternoon. Small server farm, small network, solar powered and available, and it's called GaiaNet. Gaia is the Greek. Do I have to say these things? GaiaNet. Gaia. 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 There you go. Problem solved. And they do it remotely. They be in their pajamas, in their home, having a COP summit, talking about climate change, talking about the whatever the UN does. Do the UN business there too, right? 200 nations, all on their cell phones, and they're all talking to each other, and they have the equivalent of being able to ask questions and get interpretation and all this stuff, okay, to their native language. You do it all remotely. Problem solved. Antonio Guterres doesn't even need a wooden boat with sails. Just do a Zoom call or the equivalent on GaiaNet. Do it, Tony. Just fucking do it. Jump. Jump, you smarmy son of a bitch. Just jump. Do it. I want to see you do it. I want you to do it. Do it now. I just gave you all the information you need to do. Hell, hire me. I'll do it for free. I'll set the whole thing up for free. I'll even write the goddamned code. Cut me loose on it. You won't. You won't. Why? Because you like this thing you do. You like people flying in from all over the world and being at your beck and call, and everyone around the table. It's like the big kumbaya, singing kumbaya, a bunch of hippies around a table, with their little name plates, and they're all so important. And camera swivels back and forth, and they're all in their headgear, and they're all in their suits, and they're all looking important. And when they get home, people love them and adore them and throw money and flowers at them. You love this shit. You love this shtick. You love it. They love the UN. It's a big fucking party. Kiss each other on the mouth. Wine, dancing girls, the whole thing. They love it. Come on. Monkey business. It's just monkey business. It's just a bunch of chimps gathering around in some meadow and poking each other and eating the leaves and dancing around naked. Maybe. This is from the CEO of Crescent Petroleum. He's laying down. Maybe Antonio Guterres should move the UN staff to upstate New York, to a forest somewhere where they can grow their own food without fertilizers. He has to take away all their smartphones. They can't use email. They can use maybe carrier pigeon for UN communications. Okay, that's fine. That's a bit spicy. I will allow that the UN staff living in upstate New York, when they're not hoeing their turnips, can use email. I'll allow for that. There's not much bandwidth involved in sending emails back and forth. And when the Zoom calls come, there's only 200 people on a Zoom call. 200 people on a Zoom call. How much technology is that? How much electricity is that? How much networking is that? It's a lot of networking because they're in 200 different locations. But you can do this. I'll allow for it. I will allow for this. And I'm sure that the CEO of Crescent Petroleum would allow for that too. He'd say, okay, fine. Maybe I overstated it. They don't have to use carrier pigeons. They can use email. Fine. In their upstate New York farm where they're hoeing their turnips when they're not managing UN conventions. Okay, yeah, fine. They can have email. We'll figure it out. We'll use our last drop of fossil fuels to figure out how to get those people networking capabilities and email. I'm sure he'd be on board with that. He's just being a little spicy here. But if we're not careful, watch this, people. Watch this carefully. Listen to my words. Listen carefully to my words. If we don't manage this transition to alternative energy, blah, blah, we might not have networking. We might not have electricity. We could end up living on a farm in upstate New York, hoeing turnips, and not have any of these other things. I like my things. I'm a little bit worried about this. I'm a little bit worried about how I'm going to have my things. I've got my webcam. I've got my spotlighting. I've got my flat screen monitor. I've got my Mac Pro desktop computer. I've got my internet. I've got my cell phone right here somewhere. It's not here right now. Oh, I've got my reading glasses. I like these. I haven't been made out of plastic, but I like them. I can hardly see without them. I've got my PS4 gaming system, and I've got my electric lighting. I've got my battery-powered, handheld Geiger counter for the coming nuclear apocalypse. Thank you very much, Russia. I have a lot of stuff here that I would like to keep. Can I keep this stuff? Can I have these things at a minimum, including the Geiger counters, which they probably should hand out to every home in the U.S., right? Can we have these things? Guy's still out front singing. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Or do we all end up living in upstate New York with a turnip farm and know anything? A well for water, and that's it. That's all you get. A well and a bucket. You pull up your water on a bucket. Jafar said he believed it was imperative to produce oil and gas in a cleaner way, but insisted that countries across the globe will continue to rely on fossil fuel use. Duh. Anyone who doesn't understand that is, again, a retard, and I'm not being fair to actual retarded people. We're actually failing on all three legs of the so-called energy trilemma: sustainability, affordability, and availability. We have got to keep that in mind, he said. Big Oil's presence at the UN climate talks has long been a source of contention with many sharply critical of the scale of access of fossil fuel lobbyists appear to have each year. I'll tell you what I have contention with. I'll tell you what boils my soup. I'll tell you what I don't like. I'll tell you what's got me concerned and alarmed and depressed and uncertain about my future. I'll tell you what's got me concerned. All these oil dependent people going to climate conferences and not admitting how dependent they are on oil and never confessing that they have no intention. The actual number of intentions is 0 of reducing fossil fuel consumption. I expect the oil companies to sell oil. Now, if you don't want them to sell oil, that's fine. Again, this is a technical problem. We could solve this easily. We could decommission the oil fields. We could uncharter the oil companies. We could send all these people home with whatever profits they've made, and we could uncharter them. We could stop their production of oil, and we just leave it in the ground. This is just a technical problem. I've said on other videos I've made on this channel that leaving oil in the ground is trivial. Leaving it in the ground is easy. And I've even said a child of 5 could do this because it's all run on electricity. It's all machinery. All you have to do is turn it off. Just turn it off. Send the coal workers home. Sorry, we're not doing this anymore. I just turned the reason that the motor stopped and the coal extraction stopped and the coal production stopped is because I just flipped the switch. And I've got a little child of 5, Timmy, who's going around the planet, whose job it is, according to UN Charter, the little Timmy here, the child of 5, is going around the world turning off all the motors of all the electrical equipment, of all the things that extract the fossil fuels. That's what he's doing. And we all agreed to this. A child of 5 can do this, and so we are going to demonstrate the fact that Cougar's right, and this child of 5, Timmy, is going to go around the world and do exactly what needs to be done. Because that's how easy it is. And we just leave it in the ground. And they keep going to these COPs. We're up to 28. I guess we'll be up to 58 before anything actually happens. Not that anything will. Nothing can. We keep going to the COPs. We keep issuing IPCC reports. We keep having Working Group 3 coming up with policy recommendations. We keep doing this stuff. We keep lying to ourselves that we really want to fight climate change, which you can't do. That's a lie. You can't fight climate change, and that's going to piss you off. He's full of it. How can he say something like that? Because it's true, because I'm an engineer, because I'm a physicist, because I'm a scientist. You can't fight climate change. Climate change is an outcome of a bunch of things you did. And one of the things you did, and what you're going to do 5 minutes from now, is get in your car, drive yourself to Starbucks, sit in the line to the drive-through window and get your latte. That's the cause for this thing you're going to fight. Get it? That's the cause. Now, the oil companies are enabling you to do that. And why are they enabling you to do that? Because you want to do that, because you demand to do that. And if the oil companies and the governments of the world ever stop that shit show, because they're worried about global heating, as they should be, as they must, and they eventually turn it off, I'm talking to you right there, you are going to be storming the capitals of the world. You will storm the Capitol. You will drag out into the plaza the people that voted to stop extracting fossil fuels. How did you do this? Why did you sign that treaty? You should have fought this. You should have gone to the UN and banged your gavel and made a noise and tell them we can't stop extracting fossil fuels. You didn't do it. You sat here like a pansy, and you signed a treaty that we're not going to burn fossil fuels, and you didn't tell us, and you didn't give us a chance, and you didn't give us alternatives, and you didn't fight climate change. You didn't fight climate change. You didn't even try to fight climate change. You just went in there and said, we're going to leave the fossil fuels in the ground. And now I can't drive my car to Starbucks to get a latte at the drive-up window, and it's your fault. And now I'm storming the Capitol. I'm dragging you out into the plaza, and you got to stand tall for what you've done. That's you. That's you. That's you doing that. You are going to do that. You will do that. You must do that. You're looking forward to doing that, and you won't have to do that because they're not going to stop burning fossil fuels. They're afraid of you and what you're going to do if they ever do that. Now, in a prior video, 2 back from this one, I can't remember the title, I made a numerical analysis. It's back of the envelope stuff because it's simple, because it's dumb. It's dumb numbers. It's easy to do. I can do it. I can do it right now. I'm not going to go watch the video. And after you do, like and subscribe. Okay? Why not? I'm supposed to say that, so I guess I'll say that. According to my calculations, when they stop burning fossil fuels, I always say that, the 8,000 million people on Earth become unsustainable. Can't feed them. You can't feed them. You can't provide electricity. You can't provide them with water, sanitation, nothing. You can't provide them with anything because it's all 100% dependent on fossil fuels. So ipso facto, you stop the fossil fuels, you stop all that. And 8,000 million people are dependent on that. That whole thing, all this, all that, everything I think, everything I eat, everything I drink, 100% dependent on fossil fuels. Can't have that. We just stopped the fossil fuels, so you can't have those things. You are not going to allow to contribute to CO2 emissions into the atmosphere to enhance the effect of the greenhouse effect to cause global heating. We're not going to let you do that. So we're going to cut you off from fossil fuels. And when we do that, then of the 8,000 million people, maybe 200 million people survive. And that's about a 97% reduction. And 200 million simply takes us back to like the year 1600, when people were living on the power of the sun. Oh, but the world was pristine back then. So actually, probably not even 200 million, maybe 100 million. And that gets you down to a 99% reduction in the current human population. 99% reduction. Wow. Yeah. 1% survive. 1% of the human, 1% of the, listen to the sound of my voice. If you shut off fossil fuels, given the situation on the ground, if you do that, given the situation on the ground, you are condemning to a painful and terrified death 99% of the population of this planet. How can you say that? It's math. We are completely dependent on fossil fuels. There wouldn't be 8,000 million people without fossil fuels 24/7. During the Kennedy administration, when he was president, there was 2 billion people. I think I heard that at the turn of the century, 1900, there was 1 billion people. So most of the 8 billion people have arrived on this planet since the Kennedy administration. Wow. Yeah, wow. That's a big wow. Okay. That's a big wow. And that's fossil fuels did that. 99% only gets us down to 80 million people. 80 million. Doing the math in my head. Yeah. A 90% reduction in the human population gives us 800 million people. Still too many. This planet can't support 800 million people. This planet never supported 800 million people before fossil fuels. That's a 90% reduction of the population. My God almighty. And to get down to a number that probably is sustainable, given how bad we fucked it up, maybe it's 80 million. That's a 99% reduction. I did the math in my head. Math in my head. Because I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to look at it. And you could say that these Emirati CEOs are being spicy and dismissive. They're not. I'm not being spicy and dismissive. I'm not being mean. I'm not laughing behind my hand. Am I laughing? Do I look like I'm laughing at you? No, I'm not. I am not laughing. This makes me, I'm really upset. I am really scared. They are going to have to turn this off. They know they are. They don't care. These are just men and women that work for oil companies. They've got the money already. They've got the political connections. They've got their private yacht. They've got their island in the South Pacific. They've got their mountaintop chalet in France. They have everything they need to weather the collapse of humanity. They have everything they need, and they'll take their people and their entourage, and they'll go. This guy, CEO of Crescent Petroleum, will be farming turnips to have food for himself and his family. He'll be farming turnips and whistling a happy tune. Whistling a happy tune while he works. Because he's making food for himself. And maybe he'll be in upstate New York, right along with Antonio Guterres and the rest of the UN staff, and they're farming turnips in upstate New York and whistling a happy tune because they've got a farm. You won't have a farm. You won't. You won't. What are you going to have? I don't know. But I guess when you're a pile of bones scattered on the, battlefield of the destruction of the world, you won't care that you don't have a farm. And the people who have a farm will be whistling a happy tune. Ultimately, they don't have to care about any of this. They don't have to care. They're giving us a warning. They're telling us, you are in trouble. You, whoever you are, sipping your latte in your Tesla, you're in trouble. You are in big trouble. You're in trouble because there's no way out for you. You need the fossil fuels. And if they ever try to shut them off, you're going to be out there with the banners and the signs and the buckets of red paint, and you're going to be out there, protesting, storming the Capitol, dragging the Congress critters out into the plaza, berating them, scolding them. How could you let this happen? It had to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen. Eventually, it's going to happen. These guys are giving you a clue. Why do you think that this CEO of Crescent Petroleum is reminding Antonio Guterres that the best solution for him is a farm in upstate New York? Why do you think he's saying that? He didn't have to say anything. For 70 years, our own oil companies have sat on this, not saying anything. They just sit there. They just cross their arms at their board meeting. They don't say anything. Well, are they gonna cut us off from our fossil fuel business this year? Nope. Okay. All right. Moving on. Next agenda item. And they don't have to say anything. They just have to wait. They have to wait. They have to wait for Congress to not do anything. They have to wait for the UN not to do anything. And waiting for somebody to do nothing is the default. We have done nothing. We will do nothing. We will never do anything. They just have to sit back and wait for us to not do anything, because we will do nothing. Now, while we're doing nothing about the actual problem, which is our dependency on fossil fuels, we'll be protesting to fight climate change over here on the other side, or we'll be calling for climate action over here on the other side, and we'll be over here to stop new oil explorations on the other side, and we'll be over here to fix the gas leaks in the gas lines delivering the natural gas to our homes over here. Okay, we will not be over here where the cause is. Okay, where all the gears and the machinery of destroying the planet is over here in the fossil fuel sector. We will not be over here saying leave it in the ground. We will not be over here trying to uncharter the fossil fuel industry, corporations in the industry. We will not be over here stopping the rail cars delivering oil to the refineries. We will not be standing outside the refinery saying stop refining oil. We won't be doing that. We will not be doing that. There's refineries all up and down California. No one goes to the refinery and says stop refining oil into gasoline and diesel. They don't do that. Why would they do that? Because if they do that, they know they've just shot themselves in the foot, or to use my earlier metaphor, dropped a brick on their toe. They know. No one's going to go to the refinery and say, shut this thing down. They're not going to do that. You'll never see that in your entire life. You'll never see it. And then they'll go to a protest and they'll fight climate change. Yeah, I'm a little upset. I'm a little disappointed in you, all of you. I'm a little disappointed. Now, can I live without fossil fuels? I don't know. But I think we're going to have to find out. And I'm thinking about it. How would I do that? How would I live without fossil fuels? Damn. Well, I could have solar panels for my electricity. That's a start. And the electricity would also run my internet router. But would I have internet service if there's no data centers and internet routers and networks out there to move the bits and bytes around? Okay, so maybe I wouldn't have internet. maybe the government should prioritize saving the internet and preserving some of the things that we like to have before they shut down the fossil fuels. That sounds like a project. That sounds like a project. I could sit down. I'm just about to get off of this microphone, get off this camera, and go in and fix my breakfast and make my coffee. And I'm just about to do that. I could think about that. What do we have to save? How do we save it? What's it going to take? Hmm. And then once we've made our list, and then and then let's say we're all adults and we're having the adult conversation. We're using our 3.5 pounds of brain. We've evolved to solve problems. Here we are solving a problem this morning. So we have our list of things we really want to keep. It's a short list. It has to be a short list because the more things you keep, the more business as usual you have. So we'll have a short list, and everything has to be hyper local. And we have to be able to feed people, we have to be able to clothe people, we have to be able to house people. Okay, that's now getting to be a longer list, but let's just say food, clothing, shelter, water. Okay, and tools and seeds and whatnot, and knowledge for farming. Okay, so it's already a fairly long list, but let's say we stop there. Could we do that? Okay, I could figure out how to do that. Yeah, wouldn't take long. Give me a minute. Give me a hot minute. Okay. Da, 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 da. Yeah, well, that's what you'd have to save to have hyper local farming. Is what you'd need. It's a short list. I mean, we've been doing farming for 10,000 years. Come on. What's it look like? Come on. Go to Wikipedia, look up medieval farming methods. Okay, there you go. Could we do that? Sure. We could have the best plows civilization has ever developed. They could be made out of carbon fiber and light alloys. And we could even have, oh, here you go. We don't have to have cattle and horses. You might want to have cattle and horses. Cattle can give you milk. Of course, you can eat them if you need to. And horses, you can ride on a horse. It's really a lot of fun to ride on a horse. And you can go really interesting places without roads. Ha ha ha. There you go. Think about that. You can go interesting places on a horse. So maybe we still want cattle and horses. But what if we don't want to pull a plow behind a cow or a horse? We could develop, hasn't been done, but we could develop. I'm going to call it what it used to be called, a horsepower. A horsepower was a machine. It's not what I'm describing, but we could develop a horsepower. It would be probably an electric horse. I don't know if it has legs that go like this, but it has what, wheels, something like that. A battery, electric motor. All right, we could develop a horsepower. We could develop a horsepower. We could call it that. E-horse. See how I do this? This is easy. This shit's easy. It's even fun. We have an e-horse, and its purpose is to pull a plow, or carts and laughing children, whatever they want to do with the horsepower. The e-horse is, it's a farm tool used to pull plows, heavy objects. It's got a little power takeoff on the side that you can use for a winch to lift things, and you can make sure that there's a whole industry to develop e-horses, and we could make sure that every group of people gets one. It's a grant. Every group of people over, say, 100 people gets an e-horse. And we'll, throw in the carbon fiber plow and throw in the harrow and throw in some other things you're going to have, and plans for barns and plans for haylofts. And so here's some stuff you're going to have to be hyper local and solar powered. Solar powered meaning the sun in the sky. Okay. We'll throw in some solar panels with the e-horse so that you can charge it up by the actual sun in the actual sky. I mean, it's a list of things, right? But it's not impossible. It's not a huge list. We could do this. And if we did this, Antonio Guterres and the UN staff could live in upstate New York on a farm and conduct the UN business from a farm in upstate New York using the internet and Zoom calls or the equivalent on GaiaNet. See what I just did? It's just technology, folks. It's just the will to change. That's all it is. It's the will to change. Do you have it? No. Wry smile. No, you don't. You don't have the will to change. No, you don't. You're not going to. And you won't let it happen. And when someone brings it up, leaving fossil fuels in the ground, you're going to do this. What? Leave the fossil fuels in the ground? Wait. Is that what they're talking about now? When did they start talking about that? Who gave them permission to talk about that? That's what you'll do. You'll have your surprised face. What? Wait, read that again. They're going to leave fossil fuels in the ground? When? Who's going to? How are they going to do that? I'm not ready for that. Excuse me. I'll read this article when I'm done going to Starbucks in my car to get my latte at the drive-through window. I'll come back and I'll read this article. That's you. That's you. That's you in everything you do. That's you in Costco. That's you in Whole Foods. That's you in getting your food from Ecuador. That's you and your electric lights. That's you and your gas-powered refrigerator and you gas-powered hot water. That's you. That's you being flushed down the toilet because you're dependent on fossil fuels for everything. Wow. And you don't want to work with anybody to raise food and grow food and raise animals. And you don't want to be out there behind a plow. And you don't want to have to worry about, where your water's going to come from and where your sewer is going to go. You don't want to have these conversations with your neighbors. Where's our sewer going to go? I don't know. I have to dig outhouses. Okay, dig outhouses. You got a shovel? No, we got enough men to dig an outhouse. Fine, let's dig a couple of communal outhouses, and we'll have outhouses to dispose of our human waste. What else do we need? You need a well. Okay, digging a well. Can we dig a well? No, but there are well drilling companies that can drill a well for you into the aquifer, and then you put on an electric pump. Oh, but they're going to cut off the electricity because that comes from fossil fuels. Okay, fine. Then you need to have solar panels to run your electric pump for your on-site well. Okay, can we do that? Sure, we can do that. It's just technology. It's just the will to do. It's just the will to change. That's all it is. No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. You're not going to do that. They won't let. I would do it, but they won't let me until they're gone. When they're gone, I'm going to do what I fucking please. And watch what I do. The first thing I'm going to do is dig a well. Yo, yeah, you bet that. You bet that's what I do. I want to dig a well on my property. I'm going to have the guy come out. He's going to say, why are you digging a well on your property? You're hooked up to the city water. Yeah, well, the city water, they're shutting it down in 30 days. We just got the notice. They can't do it anymore. They can't maintain the pumps. We don't have enough electricity. And your well rig is run on gasoline and diesel. So while we have a little bit of fossil fuels left and we can do them for these things, I'd like for you to back your truck up into my backyard here. I'll knock down the fences. I'll take out the garden bed, back your truck in here. I want you to dig a well for me. Oh, it's going to be expensive. Yeah, I know. I'd like to have the water. Thank you. You have cash? Because we're not taking credit cards. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got the cash. Dig the well. I'd like to get paid half up front. Okay, fine. Hold on. I'll be back in a minute. That's how you do it. Are you going to do that? No, you're not going to do that. Will they let you do that? No, they won't let you do that. What's the answer? I don't know. We're fucked. Yeah, WASF, okay? And these oil executives at COP28 are doing a massive service. With all respect to that viewpoint, perhaps he should start with the UN itself. Maybe he should have traveled here on a wooden boat with sails, rowing when the wind died down. Maybe he should move the UN staff to upstate New York, to a forest somewhere where they can grow their own food without fertilizers. He has to take away all their smartphones. They can't use email. They can use maybe carrier pigeons for UN communications. That's right. He's not wrong, except maybe about the email, the carrier pigeons. Do we even have carrier pigeons? Is that even an option? He's not wrong. He's right. He's right. Now, he could have gone further. If you want to know what further is, examine my prior work on this topic. As I said in my video about Sultan al-Jaber, they are not just dropping truth bombs, as far as I'm concerned. I think they're giving us a warning. I think they're telling us, you are going to have to leave fossil fuels on the ground, and you're not ready to do that. You're not having that conversation. You're not sitting around a table with a bunch of other adults drinking honey mead and talking about how you're going to get off of fossil fuels. Okay, you're not doing that, but you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to get off of fossil fuels. We have to get off of fossil fuels. We have to leave them in the ground. And are you ready for that? No, you're not. Could you be ready for that? Probably in the time allotted, maybe not. Should you be thinking about? Absolutely, you should be thinking about that. How are you going to live without fossil fuels? Can you? I don't know. Probably not. In fact, I have already done the back of the envelope math. Back of the envelope math. Okay, no computer servers required. No models, no nothing. Back of the envelope with a pencil. You can do the math. As soon as you cut off the fossil fuels, you're getting a 99% elimination of the human population on this planet. Unavoidable. That's what you're going to get. 1%. Still 80 million people. A lot of people. 80 million people. Can we even support 80 million people without fossil fuels? Whew. Well, that's another topic. 80 million people. Could we even do that without fossil fuels on this planet when no one knows how to harness a cow to a plow? 80 million people, really? 80 million people living in upstate New York, farming turnips to have calories to eat. Really? We're gonna do 80 million people now without fossil fuels? Really? That's what you're saying? That's it? How the hell? We don't have e-horses. How the hell? I want to know. Tell me. Explain it to me. Sit me down. I'm smart. I've got 3.5 pounds of brain. I got the convolutions. I've got 2,000 years of human evolution backing me. I'm ready for this. I'm sitting down. All right, give it to me. How are we going to do this? How are you going to support 1% of the current human population, 1%, without fossil fuels? Dang. Well, dang. Maybe it's less than 1%. Maybe it's 0.1%. That's 8 million people. Okay, fine. 8 million. Yeah, maybe. 8 million people without fossil fuels. 8 million people with plows and oxen and any land that's still arable, any land that isn't being desertified by global heating, any land that isn't subject to flooding. Okay, fine. Maybe 8 million with oxen and plows. Yeah. Yeah, sure, probably. Currently, no. These people can't do anything for themselves. There probably isn't 80,000 people on the planet who know how to do what needs to be done. Okay, but let's go to those people. Let's pick their brains. Let's do a brain dump. How do you do this? Show me. This is your plow. This is your furrow. This is the seed in the furrow. Okay, great. And how do you fertilize? Okay, and crop rotation. Okay, I'm writing all this down. Okay. And how do you take care of your animals? And these are the breeds of oxen you use. Yeah, they look really strong. That's great. And you have to breed them. Oh, and how do you breed them? Okay, it takes this long, and you need this many, and they have to have how much pasture? Okay, pasture per animal per head, and how many feet an hour of furrow can they plow? Okay, right, writing that down. And how much food is that? Okay, writing that down, and that'll feed how many families? Okay, right. Now we have some numbers. This is good. We're trying to get to 8 million. Okay, and how many oxen and how many furrows and how many seeds and how long does it take and how do we get to 8 million? Okay, I have a number here. I'm trying to get to 8 million. Can I get to 8 million with this technology? Can I even get to 8 million people? 1/10 of 1% of the current population. Can I get to 8 million people with all the notes I'm taking from this old farmer who still farms with a plow? And how many people do that? Is it even 80,000? We got to find these people. We have to get the experts. We have to get the ethnologists. We have to get the historians. We have to decode this. How do we do this? What technology do we need? Who's going to manufacture this stuff? Who's going to breed the cattle? How many new programs do we have to have at the government level to support this, to promote this, to get this to happen? What do we have to change in the curriculum to teach children how to do these things so that we can support 8 million people from the knowledge that's currently housed in the heads of maybe 8,000 people? Maybe 8,000 people in the world know how to do this. Well, goddamn. Who are those people? We need to find those people. Get those people. Drag them to upstate New York. And Antonio Guterres can tell them, here's the farm. Show us how you do this. The UN is moving to upstate New York. We're going to start a proof of concept village. And we're going to have all our staff up here. And we're going to farm turnips or whatever else. And we need you, sir, from the backwoods of Turkey or Vietnam or wherever. You need to show us how you do this. How do you do this? Oh, now you're saying we can't do this in upstate New York because it's too cold. Okay, fine. Where can we do it? Where else would you rather be? Where can we do this? How do we do this? Teach us how we do this because we have to do this. And we have to do this for 8 million people, which is 1/10 of 1% of the current human population. How many times do I have to say this? So these CEOs in Dubai are going to get a ration of shit. Fine. They signed up for it. He didn't have to say these things. So he's going to get a ration of shit. I hope he takes it in the best possible way. It had to be said. Someone has to say it. Someone's going to be penalized for saying it. They're going to be vilified, dragged over broken glass, whatever. Their reputation in the world will be destroyed, whatever. It's their sacrifice. Someone had to say it, and he's saying it. He's saying it. Carrier pigeons, plows, turnips, upstate New York. He's saying it. He's not wrong. He's absolutely correct. But how many people can we support that way? No, he didn't say that part, did he? No, he did not. He did not say that. I'm saying it. Can you support 8 million people that way? That's 1/10 of 1% of the current Earth population for humans. 8 million people. Can you support 8 million people with medieval farming techniques? I'd have to think about that. I would have to think about that. I don't know about that. It's something to think about. It's something to talk about. It's something to have a plan for. Are we going to do that? Nope, we are not.